When you visit Arizona, time is measured in moments, not minutes. Like the moment your work stress disappears as you kayak through the canyons. Or the moment you discover the life-changing effects of prickly pear chocolate. But nothing beats the moment you see the Grand Canyon for the very first time. Visit a new state of mind. Learn more at hereyouareaz.com.
It's time for another season of The Palmetto Porch, an original podcast from Discover South Carolina. I'm Devin Whitmire. Join me as I get to the heart of what makes South Carolina such a great place to visit by speaking to the locals who make it so special. Premiering December 5th, find The Palmetto Porch wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information about our show, visit scpalmettoporch.com.
Hello and welcome to the second season of the Comedy Album Book Club. This is the podcast where we listen to an influential comedy album and then discuss it with comedians and comedy nerds. Before we go any further, we ask you do as we have done and take a listen to Sarah Silverman's album, Jesus is Magic. Sarah Kate Silverman was born in Bedford, New Hampshire on December 1st, 1970 to parents Donald and Beth Ann. The youngest of 5 siblings, Silverman referred to her childhood as only moderately fucked up, with childhood bouts of bedwetting, depression, and parentally encouraged cursing that led to an inevitable comedy career. In 1992, at the age of 22, she began her career in stand-up and found her voice in the burgeoning alt-comedy world. A year later, she was snapped up by SNL as a writer and featured player for 18 weeks before being fired. Only one of her sketches ever made it to dress rehearsal, and none ever made it to air. Bob Odenkirk of Mr. Show fame, also a writer at the time, said of the matter, "I could see how it wouldn't work on SNL because she's got her own voice. She's very much Sarah Silverman all the time. She can play a character, but she doesn't disappear into the character. She makes the character her." She said that she wasn't ready at the time and that she got the job, and later parodied the experience in the Larry Sanders Show episode, The New Writer. This didn't slow her down, though. She continued in her stand-up, joined the cast of Odenkirk and Cross's legendary old comedy sketch program, Mr. Show, in 1995 through 1997, filmed the independent film Who's the Caboose, moved to LA, and started shopping around pilots, which she also later farmed for material, creating the limited series pilot season, and made her television stand-up debut on Letterman in 1997. It can never be said that Sarah didn't work hard. Between leaving Saturday Night Live and filming her special Jesus is Magic, which later became the album that we listened to of the same name, she also appeared on episodes of Star Trek Voyager, an episode of Seinfeld, the TV show VIP, appeared as a season regular on Greg the Bunny, as a puppet in the show Cranky Anchors, and the movie There's Something About Mary, Say It Isn't So, School of Rock, The Way of the Gun, Overnight Delivery, Screwed, Heartbreakers, Evolution, School for Scoundrels, and in Rent. Sarah Silverman Jesus is Magic special was released in 2005 and was directed by the creator of my go-to karaoke song, My United States of Whatever, Liam Lynch, creator of Syphil and Ollie, the director of Tenacious D and The Pick of Destiny, and an accomplished musician who studied under Paul McCartney at the Liverpool School for the Performing Arts. The special and subsequent album is a perfect fusion of these two creative forces. Their mutual irreverence and love of music created a music-infused comedy special that challenges the viewer. In the run-up to the release of the film, Sarah made the rounds of the Comedy Central roast circuit, appearing in Pamela Anderson and Hugh Hefner's roasts, as well as featuring in articles on Slate and on the cover of Hebe magazine. The special went on to earn $1.3 million at the box office, with a limited release in North America and in the United Kingdom, only going out to 57 theaters. While it had meager box office return and poor critical ratings with 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, it stands at number 14 in the top-grossing comedy concert films of all time, beating out Sandra Bernhardt's Without You I'm Nothing and coming in behind Dysfunctional Family by Eddie Griffin. So today we're joined by SiriusXM Top Comic finalist Shanti Mrostica from our Adam Sandler episode, They're Gonna Laugh at You, and comedian Kat Letwin, and from our Eddie Izzard Force Majeure episode, playwright, actor, and semi-professional Cupid enthusiast Adam Bailey. So, Shanti, you selected this album. What drew you to it, and what made you choose it?
It was it was one of my favorite albums back when it was released, and that's what I guess I just heard that's 14 years ago.
Yeah, about that now.
About that, yeah. That's around the time that I started comedy, and I'm a very like positive like comic that doesn't swear a lot. So I found that it was like I was like, oh, she's challenging all these things, and I picked it today because it really shows, it almost mirrors my growth as a person, because I don't find it funny anymore, and I'm like, why don't I? It's because I'm queer, and I consider myself an ally. When I watched it back in the day, I guess I was like, this is because I wanted to be a comic, and because I later became a comic, and I identified as a woman back then, and being a female in comedy was hard, and anything that you did bring to the stage men challenged, and she was up there talking about everything a man could talk about, and just also like the tongue-in-cheek getting away with these things, but also flipping them on their side, because it felt like she knew that she was being a real bad girl, you know?
There's like a subversiveness in how she brings, like, she's saying the same jokes like a dude comic would say, but their twee-ishness is like just,
yeah, it would be like a dirty show, and it would be like, oh, I'm telling all these truths, but it's just some incel loser talking about the most crazily offensive things.
Yeah.
But she's doing it with this like smile and this twinkle in her eye, and I really appreciate that about her, because like before that, Robin Williams was my favorite comic, and I just loved what she was doing. Yeah. But when I listened to it today, I'm like, that's so gross. It's just it's not what we do as a community, as people anymore. It's not what we talk about, or it would not pass on any stage, but it does stand alone as a very good album for the time. And she really, I don't know, stood out as a female comic, and just as a comic in general. I just wanted to kind of everybody to dive into why we'd love it, and why we wouldn't, why we would push away from it now.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, you know, she's grown a lot since then, but this is
she said that she's regretted it. She said that she's regretted Jesus' Magic, which I don't think she should, because time is time, right?
Well, I mean, but
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
But there's other comedians that are still...
Time is time. Yeah, you know.
Like Anthony Jeselnik, this is still his material. Like, this is still what some guys are doing. There's still...
She wouldn't do this today.
Yeah, she wouldn't do it today, but you can still see comedians doing this type of humor.
They've never changed it. They've never grown an inch in their entire career.
Yeah, and I find those comics tend to be the ones who like automatically blame the audience every time something goes wrong.
Jerry Seinfeld going, "Ooh, PC college students." I'm like, no, you just did a shit joke, man.
Yeah, you're bad. You're bad.
You made me a great comedian, but it was a hack joke.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter like who you are. It's the work always speaking for itself. Yeah. So if it's not speaking to the people that you are talking to, then you can't blame them for listening and being like, yeah, I heard you. I just no, go home, please.
And they're the ones that pay $10 to laugh. So you know, if you're making sandwiches for people and you make a shit sandwich, you know,
literally,
they're gonna be pissed off at you. And if you are being paid to tell jokes and you're telling shit jokes, people have a right to be, you know,
to not like it.
Kat, how did you come to the album?
This was actually the first time I'd heard it. I knew that it was around. I was never necessarily a huge fan of Sarah Silverman growing up. It was one of those things where I understood her to be important. Like, I knew her voice was something that at the time was different, and I do think needed exactly what you were saying, Shanti. The way this kind of sweet way of her telling these awful jokes. It was the idea that she was doing that, and that no one is going to come for her. No one's going to be like, okay, yeah, but, or if they did, she'd be like, I suck my dick.
Yeah. I think it's important because at that time she was doing what all men were doing, but it's not okay for a woman to do that. You know, I don't know.
Wait a minute. It sounds like there's literally been an entire millennia of history of this exact thought process behind literally everything women have ever done.
Yeah. No, listening to it today, I was like, holy shit, this is so offensive, and it's so wrong. But it's like somebody had to do that so that women could talk about the same things that men were talking about.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like you said, she regrets it, but I don't think she should in a way, because by laying down this foundation, she's able to springboard her comedy off and go like, this was offensive, but now you're thinking about why this is offensive, and that's really the point.
I think it's more layered than we think it is. I don't think that she's a racist, and I think that she's probably a great ally, and she regrets it. But I don't. There's. You listen to what's it by Eddie Murphy? What's that one?
Comedian.
Yeah.
Comedian. The first. That was her last album. That was her 1 year episode.
You listen to that and you're not like, wow, it's like that's fucked.
Yeah,
that's
he apologized. He was filming in San Francisco, and the community there were like, dude, you what the fuck? And,
but
and
if you hold people accountable to from now to what they said before, you can't, because people talked about those things, because we with like social media and the world being more open as it is, we see each other's stories. So you can't just be like an outward racist and be like, well, they're not going to hear it. And we see each other. The scope is so wide that it's not like PC culture. We just get to see that we're hurting someone.
Yeah.
We get to know it's not just like all.
No,
do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. I know exactly what you're
like
saying.
with Eddie Murphy at 19.
If you're saying tranny, and your worldview, it is. This album at 18 years old. Like, he doesn't know anything, and he's saying the word tranny like it's nothing. But has he ever met a trans person?
At that point, probably not.
I'd never met a trans person. Now I am one, and like if you don't see that, you don't know that you're hurting someone.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't hold. I don't think you can hold someone to the same standards 30 years ago as you can today.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I actually had this thing happened. I was doing a set at Comedy Bar. This was like maybe 2 years ago, and my brother happened to be in town. He had a layover from his flight, and Dave and I always loved telling jokes to each other when we were younger, and especially like the more risque, the grosser, the better. And so we're hanging around with all my comedian friends and telling jokes, and there was this one thing that he and I used to say as kids. We'd be like, oh, that sucks worse than a cheap Taiwanese whore. Like that, we thought that was funny. Yeah. And I have since then been like, oh no, no.
Because you know everything that's wrong with that.
Exactly.
Now.
And then
you're shaming sex workers, that's racist. Like, there's so many things that go into that, but when you're a kid, you just say those things. You don't really understand the gravity of what you're saying.
It's funny. It's
because you're so dumb. It's like shock value.
I mean, the mark of a good comedian in a lot of ways when it comes to this comedy is
he
like.
Did. He said it to everyone in the group,
and you were like, "No, we don't do that anymore."
Oh my god! I was like, no, that train is gone. That train is derailed for good reason.
You just ascended. Yeah, I would.
I immediately melted into the floor, and I've been there.
Patton Oswalt kind of talks about this too. He did an album at the same period where he's like, he had a gay pride parade joke, and he's like, yeah, no, and he's recently talked about it. And there's an article I think in Slate. I can't remember, but he's like, yeah, that was lazy writing. It was hurtful, and I was just ignorant, and people grow, and it's that you grow and you own that mistake that makes it, like, it doesn't fix it, but it means you own it and you've grown from it.
I read that Eminem regretted on his latest album, I think it's called Kamikaze, that he said a homophobic slur, and I'm gathering that it's faggot. And he was like, I apologize. Like, he felt bad.
You don't get to apologize for the album that you just released.
You just released, but he's 40. He's 40. Yeah,
he's so much different than I was last
week. But he's 45 years old, and he has, 20 albums under his belt? I don't even know. I don't listen to him. I think he's so offensive. But the irreparable damage that he has done to my community is like, there's so many men that think that it is okay to just be so full of hate. You're just using words to sell albums, but on this one time at 45 years old, you're going to regret saying faggot when you've said it your entire career with so much hate towards my community. You've created so many people that hate our community just because you're saying these things. But like with Sarah, she doesn't say these jokes anymore. No. That's like, she can look at it and be like, that was super lazy, that was fucked up, or whatever she feels about it now. But it's like, you can watch someone grow. Like if Patton now is like, that was lazy, that I love that. If you can be accountable for your actions and reflect on it and know what you would change now, but like, and then just watching other people just be like, oh, I'm really sorry I said faggot yesterday.
And that one time, Eminem was on stage with Elton John doesn't like automatically get him a hall pass.
Wait, what? It doesn't?
Wait. No. But what was? Wait. Eminem was on stage one time with Elton John.
For what
song
reason?
Did they do together? I want to know.
It was the Emmys. It was
what?
Like they
years ago.
they gave away a thing together?
This
Or?
show is
No,
now
they
about-
performed together.
Just like such a hard candle in the wind. Like,
it's just like
Performed what?
yeah,
I'm just
I'll have
thinking
to
of
look-
like
look
Don't
this
Let the
up.
Sun Go Down on Me with George Michael, and Eminem comes out and he's just like,
like there's a rap break.
sup faggots. Like, sorry for saying faggots so much.
I'm not the same person I was 3 minutes ago.
So gross.
But, okay, so like before we came here, I actually had to because I actually asked Matt if you ever do Jesus is Magic, bring me back on for that one because it's also one that like really affected me in 2004 when I first saw it, and then listening to it today, I was like, there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, I hadn't listened
here.
to it since I watched it when I was basically a kid, and I loved it because I just loved. I've never told jokes like that. I've never been an offensive comic or sworn a lot, but people like think that I'm like, they're like, do you have a clean set? I'm like, I think it's just because I'm gay. You think I'm a dirty comic? I don't know. But like, I just was like, to watch another woman be on that stage and talk about whatever she wanted to talk about and just be so sweet and cute about it, like use her femininity to sell things that were so insane, like just to wear that, and just there was something about it that I just was so proud of her, and it just really stood out to me as an album when I was coming up when I wanted to be a comic and then eventually was.
Yeah.
It was what was liberal at that time, right? Like liberal was taking everything to the furthest edge, like
Like
being-
South Park.
Before
Yeah.
edgelording became like such a horrible thing thanks to the internet.
Yeah,
You know, like,
it turns out when you push like all these people like do the edge, like they create this horrifying society of these edgelords, and it's like, we must destroy it with fire.
But like that was what liberal was at that moment.
Yes.
And I think there's this odd thing that happens with gay rights as a symbol of what liberalness is, because I think when it was about visibly seeing gay and lesbian couples, there was this thing about like the visibility of it, about making it visible, but we can see and say and do whatever anyone else does, and that was the big thing. And now I think as gay marriages happened and trans rights take over the LGBT queer causes, that's like the big thing we're fighting for right now, and that has a lot to do with privacy and respecting that you don't ask someone what bathroom they use, and you don't ask them what's between their legs, and you don't ask them, and so there's a different we're in a different aesthetic place where it comes to like putting everything out versus keeping some things for ourselves, and I think that's where we are.
It's just how our community evolves and changes as well.
Because I think like
Getting
Sarah
to exist as a person and not as a symbol or as
Yeah,
a
because we
collection
had
of someone
to
else's
exist
ideas.
as something to be that, and then it's like, well, now we're taking it back. Like,
But this was a very, like, I think when I watched this, I understood in 2004 that she was a liberal doing a liberal set, and she was making fun of these tropes. Like, I got
and
that
how people
there was
actually
a character there.
it's completely a character piece.
Yeah.
Well, there's in her biography, Bedwetter, she talks about meeting a famous musician who was she was a big fan of, and he was like, "Oh, I love Jesus' Magic. I love Jesus' Magic." And she's like, "Oh, you know what? Thanks. I'm a big fan of you too." And she was like, he then turns to his friends and says, "Yeah, she tells the best N-word jokes." And then she's just like, "Oh, yeah, no, oh." And I think that's possibly the moment she realized
What she did.
because it's like that's
Not everybody knows that
Yeah.
it's like what tongue in cheek is, or that
subtext does not exist.
like we
for
were
a big
talking about like
portion.
Rick and Morty or about South Park. Like people will be like, kill women.
Yeah.
Or the ginger thing that happened on South Park.
Yeah, the latest episode, that's all anyone actually said.
But South Park's
We had a whole
great example.
conversation. It was just about incels like making heroes out of people that are obviously villains.
Yes.
But they did an episode where Cartman started like a
Cartman.
started like a neo-Nazi-esque group
Yeah.
out of hating gingers to show how stupid racism was and how you could make racism about anything.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was anti-ginger groups actually started appearing
And it's
because
the
we're
Pick a
getting
Ginger
filled
Day
out.
across
Yeah.
and people were getting assaulted.
Yeah, and it was like,
it's
but
like if you
it
don't.
was supposed to show how dumb racism was, and instead started a brand new niche form of racism.
But that's what like is dangerous about art is like that you think you're doing one thing, but it can be taken in any way,
Yes,
right?
as
And
soon as
everybody
it's-
gets a joke. Everybody hears a joke, but everybody receives it in their own way.
Yeah. Oh God, absolutely. Like, there was some of the jokes in Jesus' Magic. I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh, A, like this is well constructed. B, like I can hear how subversive and funny this is. Like this is coming from the point of view of someone who understands what they're saying is stupid and wrong
Yeah.
and gross. But you're right. Like, to someone else's ears, they come in, they're like, huh, yeah, those are exactly the thoughts that have been percolating
AIDS
in
is
the old brain of
fucking
mine.
hilarious.
Oh my
Like,
God.
basically shaming sex workers or anything. There's just everything about it is really wrong. Like, she tears apart everybody.
It's sort of like, it's interesting because, like, I'm a big fan of a lot of these sort of like early alt comic space performers. So like, you know, Patton and Sarah and that, and it's like they were kind of like punk rock comedy at the day, where it's like punk rock is, again, it's attacking thing. It's attacking
what we think comedy is.
Yeah. So it's like she's taking these concepts that she's trying to, like, you know, pillory and tear down, and sort of throwing them up there for an absurd caricature-esque.
Of like, I can imagine like going to clubs back then for her and seeing the kind of material that men are telling and seeing what they get away with, and then wanting to turn it on its side because, like, why the fuck not, and why can't she? But it doesn't
really
age well.
brave. But yes, you're right. Like, so much comedy doesn't.
A lot of things don't age well because you just learn that's what the past is for, so that we don't.
It's kind of like Mel Brooks. Her comedy is a little bit like Mel Brooks. Like, certain movies, Mel Brooks movies, like, you know, Young Frankenstein, that aged pretty well. There's still some problematic scenes, but then, you know, Robin Hood Men in Tights, does not stand up.
I haven't seen
it,
that.
But I'm just thinking about it, and it's probably a lot of shaming of, like, queer
shaming,
homophobia,
gender policing against male, we are men, manly men, we're men in tights, like that whole.
And it's jokes he'd been doing for 30 years by that point, but he didn't change them up in a way that they worked anymore.
I think, like, because he's playing. So the one of the difficulties stand-ups have is they're often playing a character who has the same name as them and looks like them.
Okay.
That's what I do.
But like,
let me explain what you do to you.
When I do comedy, a lot of the time I'm dressed up as Cupid, or I'm playing a character, right? So like, if I'm on stage as adult baby Cupid, you know 100% that is not a real person.
Adult diapers are not your go-to.
No, that's
summer
not
clothing.
what I normally wear out.
Unless
it's at the Fringe tent. But like, I can say horrific things that are true as Cupid that as Adam I can't say. And there's an understanding in the audience that there is like all that technical, all that
separation
work that you could see in Sarah Silverman that you were like, but I know a lot of people in the audience can't see that. By putting it like in this bouffant kind of like character, the audience does see that work, and it's funny getting them to laugh, and then having them, some of the moments in Jesus Magic where we were all horrified at the audience laughing and clapping. When I do Cupid, they tend to go dead silent. Like, I do a 10-minute set on Celine Dion and her relationship with Renee and how creepy and gross that is, and it's funny watching them go oh, like and you really get those beautiful moments of whoa, what just happened? Where'd this go? And I think it would be so much nicer if you know, we got to hear that audience on this album. But what we got was like racism.
Or the guy who went woo to a rape joke. I was like, wow.
And she calls him out too. She's like, I knew something good would come out of this. And you know in that moment she's pointing out how stupid it is that this audience
is
clapped
like
at
eating
a
it
rape
up.
joke.
Yeah.
And yeah,
she, like, in it, she, like, hates her audience. She's like, I don't know, just some of the things that she says to them. She's making fun of them while she's on stage.
So Vulture magazine compiled a list of the 100 most influential jokes ever, and around the 50 mark is the I got raped by my doctor when I was 13. You must understand the bittersweet irony as a Jewish girl. Like, that joke is on the list, and they say it's an example of women being daring, and it's. She's like the one person who can probably tell a rape joke well. But then B, they said as the caveat afterwards, this is the joke every terrible male comedian points to when they want to tell their rape joke.
Yeah.
And
it's so interesting that we're just like, okay, let's look at the differences between you two. See if you can spot them. And now I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time to work this out. How long do you need? 15 years? 20 years?
Yeah. Well, it's passed, so let's see it. Let's hear it.
Adam, how did you come to this album?
I rented it from Suspect Video when I was 2004, and I watched it with some straight white guys. And here's the funny thing. Straight white guys, that's like an easy go-to now in comedy. That's the new Michael Jackson of jokes. But what was weird was, like, I was watching it and laughing it and loving it. I love female comedians. I love edgy female comedians. And this one guy, after the movie was done, we finished watching it, and we're outside having our smoke, and he's like, I don't know what I thought about that, says straight white dude to me, the queer one. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I think that set was really problematic, and she only got away with it because, like, she's really beautiful, and she's a Jew, so she can, like, play, like, that she's not white while she's saying these things. And I was like...
In 2004, this person
2004.
That's
a guy
pretty
who went on
aware
to
guy
vote
for 2004.
A guy who went on to vote for
What a
Rob
woke
Ford.
No.
Like,
What happened?
Whoa.
What happened?
What, you sweet baby, what happened?
But, like, I was like...
Dollar beers.
Dollar
No, not Doug Ford, Rob Ford. He...
Oh, okay. All right.
There's no difference.
Yeah, there is.
But like he was the one who said all these things, and I was like, yeah, but it's subversive, and you're supposed to. And he's like, I don't know if that makes it like. And literally this
Wow.
like straight white dude, tall, has a good like was saying all these things, and my little queer head was like, but when women say dirty jokes, I laugh. Like,
So, like, you've all watched the special. There's a lot of differences between the special and the album. Special clocks in about an hour and 10 minutes of material. The lot fewer musical numbers than, like, a lot fewer songs than on the album, whereas the album is 45 minutes with only 17 minutes of stand-up. Like, one thing I listening to the album, like, damn, can she sing? Like, you think,
Yeah.
she's not somebody who's like, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm cute and I got a guitar, I'm going to like play a little song and be silly. She like some of those songs, she could have had a career as a singer quite easily.
Yeah, she also, I remember seeing a video going around. She did this partnership with the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. And because they also sponsor, there's a songwriting guild there for all the country musicians. And anyway, so she paired up with one of these songwriters, and they wrote a song together, and she performed it at the Bluebird, which is a very famous, intimate country music venue. And it was like gorgeous. It was like about her mom, and it was so sweet and
yeah, she's a real
heartfelt
mama's
and
girl.
honest. Yeah, she loves her mom. But yeah, it was the first time I'd heard her like really, sing, and also having it
Have emotion behind it.
exactly
And not be a joke.
that vulnerability and that honesty was just like. Anyway, I cut you off to tell you a
No, that's just,
story
it's just
I
like
thought of.
sort of like it's like it's
No, she's a real
interesting,
musical theater voice,
Yeah.
and
it reminded me of Amy Mann. Like, I was like, oh, these are the songs from Magnolia. No,
Yeah.
they're about dying in an old age home.
Yeah.
Which I think was part of Magnolia.
like I'm a comedy music fan, like Weird Al and
Oh yeah,
like
I love Weird Al.
this there's so many good, like Garfunkel and Oates is another one where they do some terrific, like, and again it's almost Silverman-esque, playing the edge, like this party or the douche song,
but making it sound pretty. Yeah.
but in the case of Weird Al songs, for example, you take them out of the context of one of his albums, any album, drop it on its own, they're sort of self-sustaining. It's a sketch beginning, middle, and end. But a lot of Silverman songs, at least from this album, outside of the context of the album, they don't really work. Like, so do you find that like the songs are more geared to support the
I don't know.
comedy in this?
I often find myself thinking, it's not cold in here, you're just dying. Like that is actually probably one of the lines that have stuck with me the most from this album.
I think that it's just. I think they were just they're jokes that were in the album that were supposed to be in, like, were jokes that she probably wanted to work on the album, but she did to just put music behind them. I don't know. It's when you watch Jesus is Magic, the whole thing feels like comedy, and I was very surprised to hear that the amount of jokes is only like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But she wanted to push forward that she is also a musical comedian. I just feel like one doesn't exist without the other.
Yeah. And, like, the only bits she kept, like, I wrote down all the stuff that was cut. Like, the only stuff that she kept really serves to support a song.
Another joke.
Sure,
yeah.
The song joke that comes up. Like,
Like the
the
German
dying-
car thing. And
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's one song on the album, because we've talked about how this is problematic. It almost addresses that. So it's like, I'm surprised we all can sing, I think it's called. Or
everyone
everybody
sings.
sings. And like it ends with it's these horrible stereotype after horrible stereotype, but it almost addresses that, because at the end she's just like exposing herself as a big hypocrite because she was going to do a verse about Jewish people, and she's like, no, but my people have suffered, which is like, that is the perfect ending for a set, because it's just like and you were laughing at all this. You did not get it. You're all hypocrites.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I'm actually surprised that didn't make it into the special.
Listening to that song in particular, honestly, because this was, I've actually never seen the special. I know you said we've
I'd
all
never
watched it.
heard the album.
Yeah.
So
Well, this is great. We can just exchange notes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Going like at some point yesterday while I was listening to all these tracks, I was just like, oh my god, I would turn this off. Like I have to listen to this for this podcast, and now for I guess my own edification. Sure, finish what you start. And that song in particular, by the time I got to the end of it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, I see the joke, but do you really think that ending is enough for everything you just said? Really? Yeah. Do you really think that? Because if you do, I personally think you, Madame, are wrong. I said politely to no one. Yeah, because I had my headphones on. I was just on my balcony. Like,
and somewhere on the set of I Love You, America, Sarah Silverman had a shiver.
Yeah, yeah. When I listened to it this morning, because I picked it for the reason because I knew that it wouldn't age well for me, and I wanted to talk about how much comedy has grown, how much we've all grown, how much she's grown. But I was listening to this morning, I was like, holy shit! It was hard. It was very hard to listen to. Because I was dying when I watched it with my brother. He burnt a CD for me, and we watched it together. And I thought it was so funny, but it was. I don't think. Ugh, no.
So part of comedy is also like there's a naughtiness. Like I do the Lunacy Cabaret, and the audience there wants to see something that is pushing that edge thing. And there's like in a group, because you said you laughed when you saw it with your brother. I think there's a difference between, and like when we just listened to it, the three of us together, we laughed at things that probably at home alone, like my cats gave me bad looks for listening to this album. Like, what's wrong with you? We don't use those words in this house. And but like when you're suddenly in a group, like I saw Sandra Battaglini, and she does really rough material, but in an environment like Lunacy, where it's like about kind of subverting together, it works. But then again, her stuff is feminist in a different way, like because she's definitely hitting more feministy notes, but it's all the stuff that you wouldn't want to talk about in public, like abortion. Right. She does like a good 5 minutes on abortion, and what you would do if a fetus was brought out on stage. Like, yeah, it's.
That is a great question.
Yeah,
it's worth 5 minutes. Let's explore that.
Yeah. Silverman though, like she and she talks about this in Bedwetter. Like her dad would literally, as like a 5-year-old, set her up to say like, "No, fuck you, Granny, that shit," kind of thing, like to her food and stuff. And it's almost like that, and because she's had very delayed growth. Like she was the size she was at like 9 or 10 until she was like 16. So that was where her bedwetting came from. A lot of her.
What? Say that again.
She was very delayed in hitting puberty, so it didn't actually kick in full force until like 16, 17. So she was 16 and looked like a 12, 13-year-old.
Oh.
So she had stunted, and that's where the bedwetting came from, because her like bladder and all of that didn't grow with properly.
Her. Oh wow.
But so she very early on, she's been trafficking in juxtaposing sort of cute adorableness against really, really dirty jokes.
Yeah, she's almost raised to be that way.
Yeah, it's like you know,
manifest destiny. Yeah,
it's like it's almost like, you know, and it feels like that carries through her career. Like, sure.
Well, Wreck-It Ralph. I'm just thinking like that because like she's perfect in Wreck-It Ralph. And
I haven't seen it, but I even watching
you
Sarah
haven't
Kate.
Seen
no, I
Wreck-It
keep meaning. I can't. Whenever I'm like, want to watch a movie, I always try. I just fuck whatever. I don't know.
It's a tiny cartoon.
Yourself.
Sarah
Yeah,
Silverman.
she's just a little, but she's a child, and that's what she is. Like that's why she gets away with things, is because she makes you. She looks like a kid.
Yeah, someone just, oh, geez, that's sweet. There's no way that
what
you
the
know.
fuck did you just say?
Yeah. And I find too, like, I certainly don't mind like dirty jokes. Like I will say one of my favorite jokes on the Jesus is Magic album was she like hoping her grandma got raped, but the idea that she's only hoping that so that she can finally prove herself as like being right and worthwhile to her parents. So like twisting that around onto herself, but also using the vehicle of these taboo subjects of dead grandma, hopes there's semen in her vagina, doing a rape kit on Graham, like. I
yeah.
like that. I don't know. I'm fine with that. It's other stuff that I take issue
Well,
with.
even the casual stuff like like the in 2004, it's like that's okay, and I was like, oh, I forgot we all used to say that.
Yeah, that was
Remember when we all used to say that's okay? And in my brain, I'm like, you're right. We used to say that's okay, and we should have been saying that's lame. And I was like, no, we should have been saying. Like, my brain actually went through the progress of what we all did in society. Like, I was like, why were?
I laughed so hard when she was like, "That's so gay," and it wasn't a joke. That was just something that she was just saying.
Yeah.
Like that was just like what you talked like.
But we were really uncool back then because we were still, recovering from the AIDS crisis and scared of sex. So of course that was the public's perception.
Most kids just didn't even put any thought into it. I mean, like like little boy in the schoolyard. Oh, that's gay. It's like they're not thinking of the AIDS crisis. They're just like, that's just what everybody says.
Yeah, it's like when you say lame and until you put thought behind the words, like being a queer comic and being a somebody who's like a pillar in the queer community. I'll do a show and then I'll get like an email from a white woman that's like, it's always a white woman.
Yes,
that's
we
like,
all know this.
We're fucking
you
awful.
said stupid in your set, and when like I'm riffing, I'm not always thinking about my language, and I'm still growing as a person. So I'm like, and then they explain to me that that's ableist to say the word stupid, and I try to like anytime somebody tells me something that is offensive, I try to change my language so that I just come across better to all audiences, but just get I don't know where I'm going. Just, you say that, but you don't know you don't
where the language is coming from. Like
I said lame for everything because I was like, well, I can't say that's gay because I'm gay and that's so problematic. Well, I'll say lame, and I'm like, oh my god. When I learned what that word meant, like it's just because we're not educated and we're becoming educated as a society. So I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, you know exactly what you're talking about.
You're saying.
I do.
You're saying,
As soon as I start talking about something meaningful to myself, I'm like, who's talking right now? Oh my god.
So like how do you handle that? Like the like she talks about I powered through the audio version of Bedwetter even though I have it. So it's fresh in my mind, but she talks about like the blood in the mouth part of the joke, like with where that's kind of the setup for the payoff being the click of the light going on and the person realizing the actual the actual intent of the joke, whereas like this is something that's uncomfortable, but then the payoff is, oh wait a sec, I say that or I do that, I'm wrong, okay, this joke made me figure something out about myself and grow. Right. So like how do you balance that as funny people, as comedians? Like how do you balance that out? Like how do you figure out where to draw the line? Is it like a personal call? Like how do you feel
That's why I think it's easier in sketch because you can contextualize. You can contextualize that better. It's really hard when you're just being yourself on stage. Even if you say, "That's not me. That's a character that I gave my own name." The audience doesn't get that. They get that that's you. And so we all know, I think, that Sarah Silverman does not talk in real life the way that she talks in Jesus is Magic.
Yeah, or on the Sarah Silverman program, like. She tries to push the limits and is like so offensive. She's basically like human Cartman, like as a white Jewish woman, I guess. But I don't know.
And she's playing with the idea of her privilege, right? Like she's playing with the idea that she has a shield against people telling her she's privileged. And I mean, the Sarah Silverman program, the depiction of the gay guys on that show, I thought was so progressive. Like I was so fed up with Will and Grace when that show came on, because as a waiter in Toronto when Will and Grace was on the air, you have no idea. I had tables ask me to serve them as Jack.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I was like,
God, you got to do it for the tips. I'm so sorry.
And I was just like,
no.
I was like, what the hell? They're doing Jack 2000, and they would want me to do the Jack moves. I was like a Twinkie waiter, and I was like,
what? Oh my god!
And this is supposed to be a progressive show. I get why it's progressive, but I like.
No.
Yeah, whereas we have...
when it's not us writing it or us starring in it, it's not really like a Jack.
And then it's also meant, so much of the audience for that show were like straight people, were families, and so it's like, oh my god, teehee, so we get to feel like we're kind of like, oh, this is bad, like, oh my god, we get to know about this culture, and then, immediately take the bits of it that they think are funny or that they like cut it away from the humanity of it, of lived experience, and then be like, great, I'm gonna package and resell it to everyone as well, and then force you into this kind of almost like gay minstrelsy.
And yes, everything you just said, like that's.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be like we were talking about
Silverman
before, like it would be gay face, like
had to giant orange men, and that's what she called them. Like these
Yeah.
are my best friends. Be the gays in the show, and it was one of those few cases where I think it was right to have people who weren't necessarily. I actually don't know the sexuality of the actors, but I presume
they're both male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was good casting for that because they were so the opposite of what you think of when you think gay couple, except. Me and my husband do catch farts in jars, and we are gross, and we do like.
We're all people.
Yeah,
We're all
Steve
we-
Agee and
disgusting
Brian
flesh
Posehn are
bags.
just like big lumbering metalheady kind of guy. And the thing is, like, they just
they just play themselves, but
they
as a
play
gay
themselves
couple.
as
Well,
gay and
just
together.
normalizing
Yeah.
gayness. Like when I see sketch troops, like you write a scene for a couple, but have them both be same sex or whatever, just so that you normalize it to an audience instead of that being the joke. It's just like that's what people look like. That's what relationships look like. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to that point you say where it's a bit easier in sketch comedy to figure out that kind of line, like, whoa, one of the last like long sets I did at Sketchfest, there was one sketch in particular where I'm like, my goal with this, I want to see how like dangerously low to the ground I can fly with the audience before I can like pull them back up and we're all safe. But there's still that terror of crashing. And when we were workshopping that sketch, I remember the first time there were just certain beats that went on too long, or like a line or two here that was just, I'm like, oh, this is too much. Like on its own, it's a funny line, but now in conjunction with all these other lines and the growing tension that we're having in the sketch, I'm like, oh boy, that's got to go, because now we've crashed, we have burned. But yeah, getting to rehearse that, especially having like a scene partner, and then having friends of mine who like have a good eye to be able to say like, okay, this and this structure wise, keep this or take this away, and then we can laugh at it. Then no one's gonna like walk out in a righteous anger, which was actually part of the review of that set. One reviewer said, as soon as we were about ready as an audience to walk out in righteous anger, the script is flipped on its head, and then we're all laughing and it's fine. I'm like, okay,
It's really
good.
good attention.
Yeah. So
I guess as a group, it's going through so many more filters.
Yeah.
And as a comic, like I started in improv and sketch, and I just went to stand up, and that's what I do now. But it's just me on my own. So whenever I say something, I'm accountable for it. So that's how I hold myself as a comic, is that whatever ideas I bring to the stage, whether they're positive or negative, like I have to stand behind them, and people will remember that. So
And you riff a lot. Like I've seen you several times, and you're not always giving us set material. You're
I
often.
riff most of the time. Yeah.
It's like watching Dan Harmon in Harmontown and being like, how on earth is that person funny for that long with no jokes? Like you have the same sort of skill of like you could just go off on the like just talk. And we're all laughing, and like so you have to be in the act of self-censoring while you're doing that. That's hard.
yeah.
It's become harder as I've become more known as queer, as trans, as an ally, as a like pillar to my community, as like a mentor to young queer comics. Self-censoring as I go, especially if I've had a couple drinks. Like I wasn't always as progressive as I am, or what woke or whatever. I'm from Winnipeg originally, and I used to say a lot of really offensive shit because I was so uneducated, and I just followed along with what other people said. And now it's like I have all the education with me. It's just trying to be a good ally while I'm just like being an idiot on stage. There's like this line that I'm like, whoa, like, but that I am so educated, and I do believe in the things that the lessons I've learned as I've grown up and become an adult, is that it's easier to riff now, and it's easier to not ever hurt anybody's feelings because I believe in the things that does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And
It's like about
Like if
internalizing those lessons that you like.
Instead of like, I feel like whenever we learn, like when I, for an example, like my mom said something to me and I was like, that's transphobic, and it immediately made her cry because phobia is ugly and we don't want to see ourselves that way, but being accountable for our actions and changing is the only way that we can grow as humans. And when some white lady is like, it's just even if I don't know if she's gay or not, she's like, you said this on stage, and I'm like, if somebody from that community, it would have been more impactful if someone from that community, if they had told me I was ableist, but I will still take this if someone someone heard what I said and might have been offended, and you just happen to be the person speaking up, then I will change my language, because I don't want it to come from someone that I've actually hurt who is in the shoes that the person is representing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, once you recognize, like, your own humanity and the ways in which we are othered or seen as less than for whatever reason, then I think when you really address that in yourself and realize that you are taking away, like in small bits and pieces, in these kind of microaggressive kind of ways, in ways that are not necessarily intentional, but intent doesn't matter when the outcome
Intent doesn't fucking matter.
is someone is hurt and is bringing this to your attention, because we all of us, I think we've had those moments where like, oh, do I say something to that person? Do I okay, you know what? No, I'm not going to swallow this. I'm going to say something. And sometimes those people are just like, oh my God, like, get a life. It was a joke. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, go dive in a pool. I don't know. Like, just go away. Like, and that's very tough. That's
well, it's
hard.
not always worth it. I just feel like change in yourself is the only way that you can affect positive change, because like other people around you, you're not responsible for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just me. It's my voice that I'm responsible for. So I change it and grow, or I'm just the same as someone else that I find so offensive or wrong.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Nope, lost it.
No, it's good. It'll come back. You know, it'll come back. Don't worry.
So, Sarah Silverman program followed really shortly on the heels of Jesus' Magic, and she in Jesus' Magic, she worked with her sister Laura, Steve Agee, and Brian Posehn, who also show up later in the Sarah Silverman program. She also has worked with like Doug Benson, Harris Whittles, Rob Schraub, Bob Odenkirk, and like a ton of other people. Like, as comedians, do you feel it's like how important are these like networks that we build up of other comedians and people that use our team, like
everything?
It's the only way to get a job. It's the only way to get booked. If you're not part of that community, then you don't have work. You don't have, like, every major gig I've ever gotten, every major role or part or whatever has been through someone I know. It's not from like going and auditioning all the time or, you know, trying to get like as many sets in as possible at comedy clubs. Like, that helps so much. But then to be like good friends with people who you like and respect, and who in turn like and respect you. I mean, that's where the joy and beauty of collaboration comes in, or even just like getting your foot in the door. Like, it's everything.
100% all the things.
I guess I used to I feel like I'm friends with everybody in the comedy community because I can just like put away my differences with some of them and just but the people I surround myself with now, I feel like I'm around with so many queer people because I basically invented a queer comedy scene so that I could exist better and more just speak from my voice and feel better about what I was putting out there. You know what? I'm going to find what I'm saying here. I used to just like, I hung out with so many men and was like, and it is who you know, but now I surround myself with people that are like-minded and that who don't make fun of my voice. Like, people will be like, oh, that's retarded or whatever. Like, the way you just like stand up for too many things and you just are so PC. I'm like, well, if you just said, I don't like the R word, sir. And like, I'm sorry, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find what I'm saying.
We're here with you. No worries.
I like myself better as a person that's trying to be progressive and surrounding myself with people that feel the same way as me than I did agreeing with just anything that any male comic did or said. And the people I surround myself with get me the work that I want to do and not the stuff that I used to do as like a young female comic that was like, of course, yeah, I'll stop talking about being gay. Whatever you say, white man that's telling me what to do. Like, it's that there's power in people, you know, but there's also power in completely being yourself and surrounding yourself with people that you want to work with.
That's
Does that
a
make
great
sense?
point. Yes. Yeah. And thank you for that clarification. There is, oh boy, especially like the longer you work and the more you realize like, oh God, these things coming out of my mouth aren't my words, or like I don't recognize the sound of my own voice right now.
Yeah.
And trying to please other people, or thinking that, especially if you're starting out, that you can't turn down any work or say no to anyone, which is, oh no, that's not, and it is tough when you're starting to navigate that, to figure out like who those like jackasses are.
Who was actually in a position of power to get you something, or if they're all talk, or if you want to work with them, like, is money worth what you're putting what you're putting out by working with someone that you don't really agree with or see eye to eye?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm willing to give most people like just a chance, just, you know, at least one, just so like, yeah, I'll hop on your set, or like, yeah, I've seen work that you've done before, and I'm not like, yeah, but maybe you've gotten better, and I will see that for myself. And then usually what happens is it's like, oh God, no, I'm out. I have a life. Goodbye. And that does feel really, really good. In what you're talking about creating a scene for yourself, and not only for yourself, but creating space for others who are like you, or just want to be around that kind of energy is. That's so fucking cool, man.
I didn't like the person I was coming up in stand up, or who I had to talk to, or what I had to say to be okay with. I was never okay with myself, and I was like, now that I'm out as a trans person, I get to make. I feel like the most of the work that I get is work that I make for myself. Like, I'll record my own album, make my own comedy scene, produce my own shows that I can see the headliners I want to see. Because I'm just tired of relying on people to give me or find me work or put me in a box. Like, I'm a trans guy, and I don't look like a guy, and like, I don't know, people like the auditions I get offered are kind of offensive, and if I don't create the work or the voice for myself, and I don't surround myself with the people I want to be around, then why am I doing this? So yeah.
Well, you see it more in comedy sometimes, but like, that's the mentality you need to have as a creator. If you're just there to be a tool in someone else's kit, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it took me like 13 or 14 years to be where I am, where I can be like, turn that down, or just be like, I'd rather be at my queer open mic that I just make a little bit, like I make a little bit of money, but I get to support all these queer kids. I'd rather be here than anywhere else. If you're just starting out in comedy, that's so scary to think about starting your own room or going against like a guy that's in a position of power to you, which he's most likely not, because we're all very poor. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. It took me a long time to realize that everybody talks a big talk, but if you create the things for yourself, you don't have to take jobs from anybody. You don't have to work with people you don't like. You don't have to compromise your ideals or the person that you are. It just works out a lot better. But I don't think that everybody has that. That takes a lot to do that, you know?
When people want to see you, that's why they came out. Like that's the other thing that you have to remember. It's like
having self-value, and that's very hard for me. Oh, I do it a lot for like whenever I make queer stages, I'm like, because I never would want like some of the queer kids, like they just get to come out and be like completely themselves. They don't have to explain for even the half of a sip of a wine cooler who they are or why they are. They just start talking about like heteronormative language, and I'm like, oh my God, like if I ever did that coming up, like I wouldn't work. And I just being able to see them and seeing them never have to be like, thank you so much for, thank you, I'll stop talking about being gay, thank you for marginalizing, you know, like for making me feel small as a woman, thank you so, like the things that I had to face coming up as a comic, like they don't have to do that, and that's the only reason why any of my spaces exist, because I don't want, like, it was gross.
Yeah,
the comedy, you've been in comedy, like it was gross, and it is still gross, but we can, I don't know.
I mean, it's weird because I started in burlesque, so my experience was surrounded by women. So I have this bizarre world where it's like, don't women run comedy? I don't understand.
Just assume.
I just created my own bubble to exist in, and then I don't have to deal with it.
It's great when you live in your own bubble. Like when I go to other places or go to an open mic, like, what the fuck is happening here?
Is this a tire fire?
Yeah.
That I found accidentally?
How do you have moms? Like it's shocking.
Yeah, and they blame them for everything.
I am in my own bubble because when I go out, I'm like, these things that I fight against still are happening. They're just not happening in my little bubble.
That's there's like some open mics I've been to where I'm just like, this is not the scene that I know, and I'm like pretty invested in the scene. I know a lot of people. I perform around a lot of places, but clearly not in these places. Holy,
it's insane. I went to Comedy Bar and Comedy Bar is my space. Like that's like I take my album there. That's my place, you know. Mm-hmm. And I went there, and there was like these young kids doing like the bucket on a Tuesday, and I was there to see one of my gabies, B. He was doing a set on Riot at Comedy Bar, and we just stayed there and ended up getting drunk because we were there from like 8 p.m. and then it's like 11 o'clock. We're going out for a smoke or whatever.
Sounds like a great Tuesday.
It was a really great Tuesday. I don't get to hang out with like those friends a lot, and I was with two queer trans people, and like people just came, like white men just came. They were like, I need to talk to you, because like we just looked I don't know, different, interesting. We were a magnet. But we were outside and these kids were like, how long you been doing comedy? And like talking to me. And I was like, oh my God, you don't have any idea. Oh, and I'm like, 13 years. And they're like, oh my God, holy shit. Wow. Well, I hope to get your set around sometime. I'm like, this is insane. You have no idea. Like, it's just like, not that I would be someone or who am I. Like, you don't know who I am, but just like,
But it's also
so
like, you don't know who you are. Come on.
it's so cute to just be like that. These guys that are going out and like being like they're just these little tiny boys that are like telling their little offensive jokes and they're like, yeah, I've been slinging jokes for about a year now. I'm like, sick bud. And just being outside comedy bar and just being like, what a different world. Oh my God, I'm not even a comic to you. I'm just some lesbian in a weed shirt, but I'm not.
Just those are the best.
Yeah,
lesbians.
not a lesbian, and also I bought the weed jersey so that I could look like a dad watching one of my gabies do stand up.
Oh my God. That's the cutest.
So, like, we've talked about how Sarah is a passionate progressive, and, you know, her television show, I Love You, America, is kind of a testament to that, and how she loves her country. Now, how do you feel, you know, she has sort of backed off of Jesus' magic and apologized. How do you feel she's evolved her material? Like, what are your thoughts on how she's progressed as a comedian?
She shows us her thought process a lot more. I think we're seeing a lot of the math. Kind of when she's going out and doing things, she's letting us know how she gets from here to here to here. Like the comments that she's had about Louis C.K. have all been these very well thought out comments that are not off the cuff, that are really showing you how she's thinking about it, and she's not being twee. There's a real, and it's not cynical either. There's actually an earned sentiment in what she does now, which I think is kind of interesting, and I think that's why people are curious to hear what Sarah Silverman has to say again, right? Like that's where she is right now, and you know.
I haven't seen I Love You, America.
I saw one clip. I actually happened to see a clip of it yesterday. It was going around the social medias. And it was her taking a tour of the Hall of Presidents in Disney World after hours. And they're like, oh, but this place really comes to life after it closes. And she's like, so the robots come to life. And the woman's just like, yeah. And I walks off.
Yeah.
And all the robot presidents come to life. And John Hamm is playing Abraham Lincoln. So I'm just like, Abraham Lincoln. All right.
What?
And
It's
basically, it turns into a commentary on how America has always had problems, but you get over the worst of yourself by finding the best of yourself. But then it also ends with all of the animatronics farting in each other's faces and just having a great time.
It wouldn't be a Sarah Silverman joke without farts.
Or poo, yeah.
Or poo. Or duty.
Or duty. Oh, yeah, sorry. The proper term is duty. Yes.
But it's, you know, and she had another one where it's almost like Sacha Baron Cohen's latest show, I can't remember, but without any of the maliciousness. So it's like where she goes and has dinner with a bunch of Trump supporting people from Louisiana, and it's not mean. You know, it's just sort of like, you know, we're all Americans. We all love this country. We all want good. Just we need to realize that, you know, we're human too, and you're human, and we need to respect each other's humanity.
I wonder how much she was influenced by Larry Wilmore, because I kind of feel like his not what was his show called? Not Black on the Air. That's his podcast.
Oh.
What's the TV show?
Crap.
I have no idea.
I
No
know
clue. I
the
don't.
one you're
You don't
talking
know Larry Wilmore?
I don't know him.
Oh, he took over Stephen Colbert's spot on
it was
Comedy
awesome.
Network
It was
after
awesome.
Stephen Colbert moved on, and they gave him like a year and a half, and he's a self-identified black nerd.
The nightly show with Larry Wilmore.
He was fantastic, but he has this incredible ability to bring a lot of different voices to a table, and he calls himself, we would probably all identify him as a progressive, but he calls himself a centrist, and what he calls a centrist is someone whose mind can be changed by facts. And so you listen to him talk and take in all these different opinions, personalities, like really be able to negotiate and navigate, and I feel something similar in Silverman with I Love You, America. And I know because Wilmore is an influential, like, script doctor and backroom writer, and he helps out a lot of different people in the LA world that we're all affected by. That I wonder if there's some sort of connection there, because he lost his show for being too
Centrist?
I don't know why. He has a loyal following. That 100 emoji.
Yeah, it's from his show.
That's from his show. Keeping it 100 is Larry Wilmore's.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Yes,
he coined that.
He coined
Oh my
that.
god, I'm so sorry. That's how I'm gonna remember him. Oh no, I'm sure he's done such amazing work, but that's what got me.
That's okay. I don't know any of Drake's music, but YOLO. YOLO sticks out for
I
me.
didn't like any of Drake's music until the most recent album. I Start From the Bottom. It made me so upset. I'm like, you started in Forest Hill. That is not
Even
the bottom.
geographic.
I know, even
Your
in the
definition of bottom is very different from my
even
definition.
in
I grew
the
up
in
more in
the
Belleville,
video, he's like
Ontario.
from like I guess with the kids he worked at Shoppers Drug Mart with, like his friends from like Toronto, and I was like,
Yeah.
you had a job at Shoppers Drug Mart, dude. You're fine.
Like the office that I work my day job in, it's right by his restaurant. Like the
Drake
Six.
has a restaurant?
He has the restaurant, and it is the most tacky as fuck thing
What
in
is
the
it?
city.
Which one?
The Six, and it's like
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
a six within a six, and it's like this. It's because he coined the Six for Toronto, which is the stupidest nickname for this city. Like
No, it's
Is
our
it like we have
nickname now.
6
You have no
boroughs or
choice.
what?
Yeah, it was
no,
teed
because
up
like
before. I mean, come on.
416 and 647 area code.
That's why.
That's where it comes
I
from.
assumed that we had like I'm originally from Winnipeg. I've only lived here 4 years, and I was like, that's cool. Like I thought we had
Yeah, no,
almost
it's-
communities
when
like
it
6
amalgamated
boroughs.
that it's like 6, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that explanation, but I
And it's
learned
not
that it was
that.
actually because
Yeah.
it's
That's-
a short form of 416.
Yeah.
That's so gay. No, just-
That's,
I take it back.
Let's change it to That's So Drake. Like,
so
so
Drake.
That's
So
so
That's
Drake.
good.
So true.
But yeah, I walked by that place. It's actually closed for renovations, but it just
Yeah, didn't it burn down? Or am I thinking of a different?
no,
I'm
it was
thinking
a
of
different restaurant. It was like it was a steakhouse, and then they made so they gutted it, and it was like the steakhouse the bankers went to and had to have their events in, and
It's when Drake owned it, or
before. So
Oh,
now
okay.
Drake, and it looks like something from like a Trump wet dream. It's just gold everywhere and just ridiculous. Like it's this ridiculous, sort of overplayed, horrible looking tacky place, and it's
Wow.
really expensive. But it's apparently the food is crap. So it's like it kind of represents Drake in so many ways. It's a big game, but it's really fucking milquetoast.
yeah. No, I what was that? There's a Ghostface Killer. Like not there's someone that goes by that like writes blogs, and he
Oh
puts
yeah,
up-
that wasn't. And he do those like music reviews.
he
and
does
the,
like a list every year of like the whitest
softest-
rappers, the softest rappers,
in the game.
and he put
Some people
I
think it's Donald Glover who's secretly writing that. That's the
Really?
theory. Yeah. So
that would be really funny and great.
I can
And-
believe it.
But Drake makes it like every year on that list as like I think number 1. I don't know. I don't have enough information, but there was just a picture of him dressed up as Frodo in this list, and like all the like
Oh my
the
goodness.
things he did growing up in Forest Hill and being like a very privileged little actor and
There was a
everything.
debate.
Dressed as Frodo, and he's like so happy with his like little elf ears. and
I
he's-
like that actually.
But it's just to
like
think
that,
of
yeah.
that and to think of him now, like it's just really.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Drake, so Sarah Silverman later in her career.
Sarah Silverman.
I
Drake
was
of
like,
no,
wait a minute.
Drake is a more talented comedian. Sarah
Oh,
Silverman is a more
YOLO,
talented
the
comedian
100
than
thing, I get it.
Yeah.
than Drake is. Anyways, I like The Weeknd. That's where I fall on. That's where I fall on Toronto.
So do you guys can you think of any comedians that may have been inspired by Sarah Silverman that you feel have like sort of built their voice out of what she's built before?
I don't. I can definitely see like it's not exactly the same, but Amy Schumer following in the
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
the footsteps
100%.
that
100%.
Sarah
Yeah.
Silverman put out. Yeah, if would
100 emoji.
Yeah. Oh yes. TV show.
Yeah.
Garfunkel and Oates, you already mentioned. I think they were influenced by her. Someone else in my brain that I've now forgotten already.
Yeah. It's tough on the spot to think of, you know?
Yeah, that's Amy Schumer's really the only one I can think of right now.
Dan Harmon. 'Cause
Until they got into a big fight and got kicked off the show.
Well, no, that actually was that because
Harmon.
that
He was
an
on what's her-
influence on.
Sarah Silverman program.
He
He's
was-
one of the people who created the show.
And he got kicked off?
She fired him.
She fired him.
Because
what?
he's notoriously horrible to work with. He
Yeah.
gets fired from so many shows, and he keeps getting jobs. Anyway,
Is he, what, because he's like,
He's just no. He's not. He's just a dick.
Oh.
He's like just well.
He's a self-destructive alcoholic.
Yeah, he's a self-destructive alcoholic who
Oh, he's-
hates people. Like
oh, he is.
Yeah,
Morty.
he is Rick.
Yes,
He
yeah.
is Rick. And, like,
He thinks
but-
he's smarter than everyone else in the room.
But
Wow.
I mean, to his credit, I mean, I used
He's
to listen to
very
his podcast a lot, and it's just like I can't listen to this guy because he hates humanity so much. It's just like painful. But every once in a while, he'll make a mistake, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm in the wrong here," and then tries to correct. So I'm like, he's human. He's flawed. I watch his material, and I just keep him at an arm's length. But you can, I can see a lot of him. Where he came from, Sarah Silverman. Like, there's
that influenced him a lot, and being fired by her influenced him. He credits that as being one of the things that influenced him. So I know that Dan Harmon has
Wow,
on the
that's
record
cool.
said that Sarah Silverman influenced him both by hiring him and by firing him.
yeah, and they remain friends to this day.
And they remain friends to this
yeah,
day.
so it was more like this. I like you, but I can't work with you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I think that any female in comedy would be, I don't know, she's a voice, like it's just like Tig and her were coming up at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Tig Notaro, yeah, because she was on the show.
They
with her.
collaborated a lot together.
Yeah, and I didn't know who watching Sarah Silverman show, I didn't know who, I was like, why would she hire this lesbian that can't act? And then I was like, oh, that's Tig Notaro, because I never knew what Tig looked like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, that's really
Tig
funny.
really does have one character.
Yeah, and
It
she's
is-
terrible, and she's terrible at it. Even acting, like she's so amazing. Obviously, I
Such an
love Tig
incredible,
Notaro,
incredible comedian,
incredible comedian, incredible person. But she's like, it's just like Tina Fey. Like she can't.
Yeah, Tina Fey is always Tina Fey.
Yeah.
and you'll love Tina Fey. But
Yeah.
you go in knowing
or
what you want.
Sarah Palin. She can do that
Yeah.
one character
Yeah,
That's
really,
well,
really
but
well.
like when Tina Fey is acting, though, you believe it. Like when I see her on Kimmy Schmidt or on anything, she's like an okay sketch actor.
Yeah.
But Tig is just like it's painful.
Yeah, she's gonna
but
be
that's
in
how
the-
she talks. Like she has like such a monotone. Like
Yeah.
that's actually who she is.
Yeah.
She's actually going to be on the next Star Trek season
What?
as a recurring character. So like
So she was
like Rainn
influenced by Sarah Silverman to go on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
We
It's like-
got there.
Yeah. So it's like
We
Rainn
gotta
Wilson was in the first season of Discovery. She's going to be in the second season. So.
Oh my
Because you guys
God.
didn't, because you guys gasped when we talked about her being on Voyager, and we never got there. So I just have to say, the episode of Voyager, and it's a 2-part episode that she
Oh,
was
baby.
on, is one of those ones where they go back in time to Earth.
Of course.
So it's them in 1990s California
Yes.
meeting a Sarah Silverman type. Like she is literally playing a Sarah Silverman type on the show.
Like
She's
those 90s
essentially
crop top
herself.
shirt and like the big chunky sneakers, and it's just she's so 90s.
It's-
Oh my
It's,
god.
it's like, what on earth is going on?
This has changed everything
It's a
for me. I
brilliant
have to let you
episode
know.
of. It's not a. It's actually one of the worst episodes. Of
Of course
Voyager
it
ever.
is.
But it's beautiful, and they have to fight this evil guy from Voyager's future, like even farther in the future, who's come back and lost something, and then another evil guy has like future technology.
And he lost it in the 90s.
He lost it in the 90s.
I don't know.
Things were different
The
then. Stuck in
90s,
the
I lost
90s
a lot
again.
of shit in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it seems to be a good place. To
I am
visit.
such a sucker for a time travel episode. Yeah.
Yep. Real. For me, always better than a holodeck episode. Always.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's just phoning it in.
But if
man.
it's time,
Right? Yeah. That's just. Oh yeah.
We
that
can't
one.
figure out what to do. The
Oh, we're
holodeck
on
will
a
function.
we're on a fucking holodeck. Cool.
Hey, can
yes,
anyone on the crew
and
dress up as a Mark Twain guy? I don't know. We're just going
just so we
for
can
it.
just bring in anything we want. Oh man, such a sellout. And I'm like, I don't want to get to know that character. Get out of the holodeck.
We got a bunch of costumes from like a 1930s detective thing we got to reuse. Okay,
Oh, I remember
Picard's
that! Yeah.
really into 1930s noir now.
Yeah.
But
so
but
funny.
if Broccoli was on the holodeck, then that was.
Then it turns into like a
Oh, fair
weird
enough,
kinky
yes.
thing.
Who's
Yeah,
Broccoli?
Lieutenant, was it
Barclay.
Barclay?
Yeah.
Oh no,
He
I just said
started
Dick
TNG, but
Barclay.
he's
No,
in
really.
all these shows.
What he is what every real person would do if the holodeck existed, which is make basically slash fiction of all of their coworkers that they want to sleep with.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone
it's
would
like
do that.
it's like okay, let's be realistic. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going back to Renaissance England or like blah blah blah, and it's like, no, you're not hanging out with Da Vinci or like Shakespeare or something. You're getting sexy time on. Like let's yeah. so-
Unless
I have no idea who that character is yet. No, I didn't watch it. It's like,
he was
I
brought
don't know
up on
about
the
it.
A-Team.
Your homework after today is to
Barclay
go
episode?
home and watch all. No, because he has several TNG episodes, but he's also on. He's in all of them. He ends up on Voyager somehow, like through a wormhole. Like
Yeah.
I only watched I've only watched like a few episodes of each because I had a boyfriend once. My ex-boyfriend Nick, he was a weed dealer, and I was like 17, 18, and I really loved weed. And when I went to his house, I got to smoke weed for free. But when he tried to kiss me, I'd leave. So that's where it went. And we would just watch Star Trek, and he'd try to touch my boobs, and I'd be like, I'm leaving. They stopped smoking weed, and I just never talked to him again.
Why would you?
That's what you get for dating a guy. I don't know. That was rude.
It's not untrue.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just any.
Turns out I'm just a guy. Thanks for the weed, man.
and that's why gay couples always keep their weed supply level.
Yeah.
So no one ever leaves.
So any closing thoughts on the album?
It was shockingly painful to listen to, shockingly so. But once again, there were these moments of true subversion, of real, like, just quality construction in those jokes and the way she delivered them. I thought that was excellent, but also just there's a difference between like writing a line and then just like kicking the line somehow like away and just being like, no lines anymore, bitches. All right, motherfucker, dicks and mouths everywhere. Yeah. Actually, that's fine. Dicks and mouths everywhere. That's okay. Whatever. But yeah, just
As long as everyone's represented in the dicks and the mouths.
yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, inclusion.
Inclusion.
Yeah.
Some of those dicks are strap-ons.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So just just listening to that and hearing where it was like this is just, it's so much, and it's painful, like, and it's just, should never be around. So
Yeah.
those are my very cogent thoughts.
I think there's a time and a place for everything, just like Eddie Murphy's content. Like, people love that, and it really shook up comedy. But there's a time and place for everything. It was a long time ago. I don't know. She taught me when I was just starting to think about going into comedy and was starting as a comic, that if I was really put down for being a woman in comedy, and I was like, I felt like never got the same respect, even though I was doing better or, the same or better than the men that I was around. She taught me that I could just push my limits, not the line, push my limits, and actually just the things that I thought were funny, and I could bring them to the stage. Like, she does like a duet with her vagina and her bum at the end.
Yes.
When she like
Amazing Grace. Yes.
yeah, she sings Amazing Grace with her butt and her vagina, and I was like, that just like be like embracing your inner child and bringing that to the stage, like not all the racist stuff or the offensive, like putting down sex workers, all the offensive stuff. There's a childlike whimsy to Sarah Silverman, especially in Jesus is Magic, when she was just one of her first specials, right? So I don't know, she just taught me that I could be myself on stage and be respected for it. So I thank her for that. But then let's bury Jesus' Magic for now, because it did not age okay in any way.
Yeah, if it rises again, let's hope it's better than it was
And
before.
It's a
something
time-
about her grandma. It rises again.
It's a
I hope
time
there's
capsule.
semen in it.
Like, it's from the past. It should stay in the past. I don't begrudge. Like, there's like that joke about where she realizes that she's turning into her mother. That joke gets quoted all the time, and there's some nuggets in there.
Yeah.
As someone who does sometimes go into shocking stuff when I do more bouffon-y things, I'm like, it reminded me, like, just like, nothing goes away anymore, and be careful, like, really think everything through. But no, I did enjoy the fact that she did it in the same way that Eddie Murphy was this crossover comedian, because I think he was one of the, like, him and Richard Pryor like really broke black comedy out to a whole new generation of people, and he was like the top grossing comedian in the world for a moment, and so I think there's something with Sarah Silverman, like, breaking through that the male douche door of what stand-up comedy could be in so many clubs, and being like, you guys can tell those jokes, but I can't. Just kick the door down.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Like, the door needs to be kicked down, but now the door is down, and so she did it.
That's why she's doing different stuff now.
Correct.
Right,
That's
yeah.
why she's doing different stuff now, and we can all learn structure and timing from her.
Okay, so this episode's going to go up next week. We'll start with you, Shanti. Anything you want to plug?
I am the first out trans person to ever to be one of the 42 in JFL 42. So I have shows all through the 20th to the 29th, and I'll be doing competing in SiriusXM's Top Comic on the September 27th. And also, I'm dropping my album, The Shanty Show, on October 27th at Comedy Bar at 9 p.m.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm finishing my summer tour, so I'm doing one more Adult Baby Cupid show on the 21st,
Right.
and that's going to be at the Social Capital Theater, and that's probably the last time that we're going to do this variation of him, because the issues that he deals with will be different next year, because time stops for no one.
Time is time.
Time is time.
Time is time. Thank you.
Fruit flies like a banana,
I got you.
and
I got
time
you.
flies like an arrow. And yeah, so that's my big one coming up, and I'm also doing another one the day before at SoCap, doing a different show, Perfect Match. So
Oh, that's such a fun show.
I'm looking forward to it so much. So I'm basically moving into the Social Capital Theater next weekend. I will just stay there and have a cot in the back.
Stay out of the main level or the basement because
It's actually a different bar.
Yeah, it is, eh? I went in there one night and I was like, I feel like this is a different bar. And it is.
The sad old man fighty bar.
Yeah,
like
I was drinking a 50 and I was like, what am I doing here?
The
You
first
really
time,
have become like everything.
Yeah.
yeah, the first time we recorded there, I'd never been to the SoCap prior to that, and I was like, is this the right place?
Yeah.
Oh, and I should mention Bellevilleville, the first Tuesday of every month at the Monarch Tavern, where a group of people do long-form improv about 1970s Belleville, Ontario, because that's hysterically funny. And it actually really is. So if you've ever wanted to see what Belleville, Ontario might have been like in a drug user's adult memory, because the entire show's a flashback, come and see the weirdest long-form improv show in Toronto.
All right. Yes. Yes.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I've got let's see, coming up on September 22nd, I'm going to be participating and helping to run this like meta improv game at the Hand-Eye Society Ball. So this is all about like indie video games and developers in Toronto and from around Canada. And so I just got some of the details about this yesterday. So like, well, I guess we'll see what it is when we show up. But it has there's gamification in it. There's improv, and it's gonna, I guess, be wild. And also, it's a fancy ball, so you can dress up and play lots of video games that are debuting for the first time.
Sweet.
There's drinks, there's food. So it's gonna be at 918 Bathurst at the Arts Center in there. So that'll be fun. I don't know, what else do I have? I'm on like 9,000 podcasts. Just like Google my name and podcast, and like they'll all come up if you like how my voice sounds. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Excellent. All right. Well, you've been listening to the Comedy Album Book Club podcast. Thanks to our guests, Shanti Marostica, at Shanti Marostica on Twitter, Kat Letwin at LetwinKA on Twitter, and Adam Bailey at Still Your Friend on Twitter. So thanks again to everyone. Please remember, you can find Comedy Album Book Club on all your favorite podcast providers. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review, as that helps get the word out about the podcast. Take care and keep laughing.
Chat.
Never gonna get it, never gonna get it,
Yeah.
never gonna get it, 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 gonna get it.
So we're also recording your theme song.
Time for a new theme song, second season.
Yeah.
You know how to book flights and hotels. All you're missing is a tool to plan the travel experiences you'll have once you arrive. That's why you need Viator. Book guided tours, excursions, and more in one place. There are over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from, so you can find something for everyone. And Viator offers free cancellation and 24/7 customer support for worry-free travel. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.
Swimsuit? Check. Sunscreen? Check. Phone charger? Check. Don't forget to pack the 5-Hour Energy. It fits great in a pocket or carry-on, and the alert feeling will help you arrive ready for anything. Now get 20% off when you use code 5HETRAVEL at 5hourenergy.com. Expires April 30th. One-time use only. Not valid with other discounts. Remember, visit 5hourenergy.com and use code 5HETRAVEL to save 20%.